Evolutionary.org hardcore episode 220 is coming your way. This is a very important episode. Today, I'm going to talk about using bodybuilding to cure addictions by Pharmaqo. So, this is going to be something where we brought in Noah, special guest again. And if you haven't heard the previous episode with Noah about depression, very, very good one as well. So, definitely check that one out. But this is going to be about addictions. We're going to really drop the bomb on this, on the knowledge. We're going to talk about what addiction is, what causes it. We're talking about genetics and mental health, all that good stuff. Replace bad habits to good, and how you can use bodybuilding and steroid use, at the end of the day to be good addictions. And I have good addictions. I like to go fishing. I talk about fishing on the forum. It's addictive. When you see that pole bend and you're bringing in the fish, it's exciting. And you see that fish and you get that fish, you're like, wow, you're so exciting. You're about to cry. You've been working for 4 hours to get a fish and you finally get a fish. That's an addiction. So we're talking about how bodybuilding can also be an addiction for you. Understanding the benefits of structure, positive feedback. And we're talking about Pharmaqo on this one, how you can use the Pharmaqo products to turn your negative addiction to a positive one where you can actually look good and feel good. So Noah and Mobster are going to be all over this one. They have a lot of experience with this stuff, both with themselves and their family. And
Yes.
at the end of the day, they're going to be doing most of the talking on this one because we really get as much information. Check out Noah Wixx on the forum, NoahWixx. You can search for him on the forum by doing a search, and it will come up on the forum. And you can check out his logs where he talks about this stuff as well. He's very open about it. You can also message him, and he can, if you're sitting out there with addictions, this is the podcast for you. If you have family with addictions, this is the podcast for you. Show them this podcast. Hopefully, we can change lives on this podcast. So, Noah, thank you for coming on early in the morning. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, man. Actually, this is late for me considering most days I start work by 4:30, so I'm up at 3
Yep.
a.m. So this was easy for me.
You're
Cakewalk.
you're you're a working man a little bit, and you just got hit with a
Yeah.
snowstorm, right? How much
I
snow do
was
you
working
got?
in it, man. I was working in it. It
Yeah.
was sleeting, snowing, and 50-mile-per-hour winds. I was working in it on Wednesday. So that was it kind of changes you, man. Like when you go
Yeah.
from a cushy inside heat to like, oh my God, it's cold when you step outside. But once you start working in it, there's just
Yeah,
something magical
yeah.
that happens to where you don't even get cold anymore. You just grit and bear it, and it's actually invigorating. Like to be honest
Yeah.
with you, it's
How
it's
much
it's
Yeah.
snow
super
did
good.
you do you have in your backyard?
Well, we only got a couple inches so far, but it snowed a little bit again last night. But Saturday we're supposed to get
Cool,
between
cool.
6 to 12 inches, I think, of snow.
All right, cool. You can build a snowman, a Evo snowman. So
Yeah, my
Mobster,
dog likes to plow it.
so Mobster, take it away. Talk about the previous shows, and then we'll get into what addiction is.
Right. So obviously, over the years and prior to my time with Steve, we've covered multiple subjects from family stuff, sexual stuff, man stuff. We obviously talk about using steroids. We obviously talk about training and diet and all the obvious kind of things that you'd expect us to cover on these shows. Arguably, some of the most popular shows and the ones that have had the greatest feedback, and even as we said, if it only helps one person, but I think we've actually helped more impact from shows have actually been these kind of addiction type shows, Steve, and Noah, where we've had a guest come on, myself included, Steve included, where we've talked about family history, addiction issues within the family. When we've had guests on, they've talked about their own particular addictions. And what's been interesting, Stephen, and great, and especially with the feedback, as I said, is I think those shows have been the strongest. You've had real life shit, people spilling their guts. Literally, I saw a post this morning where the person said they've never talked about this before, and I'm talking about it with you guys on the forum. And the great advantage of that, and this is what we like to think is going to come from these shows, is that those people have taken, as we're talking about today, a really shitty, sometimes horrendous jowl in Harley Guy dying and being resuscitated, and just about the bottom of the fucking barrel situation, and being able to turn it around with great physiques, great training, and what has been unbelievable is that they're sharing their story and they're letting you know that it's not necessarily the end of the road, and them coming back has turned them into people that have been absolutely fucking amazing. I'll quote Harley, mention Harley Guy again. Noah's a great example. I think Steve and I, arguably, slightly less. because although we do these shows, we haven't been able, we our stories, as powerful as they are, aren't as strong as others are. And having those other people come on and share their story and putting that information out there into the world and spilling their fucking guts has helped others on the forum, others that just listen to these shows, and so on. And they are probably the most worthwhile shows that we've fucking done. So today's show, especially in its way, arguably, and we even said this in the pre-show, we can even call bodybuilding a positive addiction, because for some people it is an addictive thing, whether it's the feel-good hormones when you train, knowing that you grab the day by the bollocks if you train early in the morning, and so on. So taking negative behavior, negative addictions, drug addictions, just stupid shit that we sometimes do, and we all do this, and replacing it with a positive addiction and the feel good hormones, and knowing, not just in an addictive way and a high, but knowing that we're doing something that's good for our body, it's good for our mental health, good for our digestion, good for our skin, good for whatever, Steve. So yeah, the idea that today's show, hopefully, we're going to talk about negative shit, but we're going to talk about replacing it with the positivity of going to the gym, the sense of community that we have on the forums, and so on and so forth. And hopefully, handful of people listening to this show today, Steve, will take away that message, get to the gym, start smashing the fucking granny out of it, and come away and realize that there is actually a way of replacing negative behavior and negative addictions with positive behavior and a positive addiction. So let's go, guys. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show. I'll let Noah bring up the next one because he's actually got some definitions that we're going to
Yeah.
base the following topics on.
Yeah, so now I'll get into what addiction is and what causes it for those out there who may not be aware.
So, addiction is a chronic condition in which a person becomes unable to stop using a substance or engaging in a behavior despite harmful consequences. It affects the brain's reward, motivation, memory, and self control systems, making the addictive substance or behavior feel necessary for emotional or physical functioning. So, that is the definition of addiction. The definitions of what addiction is and what it typically involves is compulsion, a strong urge to use a substance or repeat a behavior, loss of control, difficulty limiting use, continued use despite harm, physical, emotional, social, or financial, cravings and withdrawal, the body and brain adapting to dependence. Addiction can also involve substances, alcohol, nicotine, drugs, medications, or behaviors, gambling, gaming, compulsive eating, etc. What causes addiction? Addiction arises from a combination of biological, psychological, and environmental factors. No single cause explains it for everyone. Brain chemistry. That's the first one I'll hit on. Substances and certain behaviors trigger a strong release of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical over time. The brain becomes less responsive to natural rewards. Higher amounts of the substance/behavior are needed to feel the same effect, which is tolerance. Stopping causes discomfort or withdrawal. The second point that I'll hit on is genetics. Research suggests that 40 to 60% of addiction risk is hereditary. Some people are genetically more sensitive to reward or stress pathways that contribute to addiction. The third point would be mental health. Conditions like depression, anxiety, PTSD, ADHD, trauma history. All those can increase vulnerability, especially if substances are used as coping mechanisms. The fourth point that I'll hit on is environment. Life circumstances play a major role. Exposure to substance use in family or peers, stressful home environment, childhood trauma or neglect, easy access to addictive substances, cultural or social acceptance of use. The fifth point that I'll hit on is early use. Using addictive substances at a younger age increases risk because the brain is still developing, especially the areas involved in decision making and impulse control. The sixth point and factor is social and behavioral factors. Some individuals may seek high stimulation or novelty, have difficulty managing stress, use substances to fit in or relieve social pressure. And then why addiction is not simply a choice. While the initial use may be voluntary, changes in brain function make it much harder to stop. This is why addiction is considered a mental condition, not a moral failure. And then let's see. That is all I have for the 6 points that I wanted to hit on before I brought you guys back in to let you
Right.
guys touch on those.
Let me
Yeah, go
say,
ahead.
so yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna. I would absolutely agree with every single way or definition that Noah's come up with. I think I've typified most people's perspective of addictive behavior, regardless of my family history, in terms of you see some people and you kind of look down. And again, we've had guests on this show, so my view has changed and my experience has changed my view as well. But if you'd asked me 10, 15, 20 years ago what I thought about addicts, I would be media. It'd be like quoting something from the newspaper guys. You see someone on the street with, I've been giving an example, right? This is pre-family stuff. Working at Charing Cross Police Station, walking from the railway station one Saturday morning, and there was two addicts using heroin, and one of them had the syringe literally sticking out of their arm on the underground station steps. And I was one of many people that reported it to the police station front desk as I came in, and just literally rang down from the warden office where we was. And we were one of many people. And that would be kind of the common perception. The same thing with gambling, the idea that you're spending all your hard-earned wages. And I know people since that time where literally if they had to buy the food straight away and the rest of their money would be gone within hours of being paid. So a common sort of experience would have been that. It would have been, oh, that's what addicts are like. That's what they're scum, and all that kind of stuff. And then you start to think at the points that Noah's just raised, and you go, okay, is my brother's drug use or my other brother's alcohol use based on the fact that mum and dad would enjoy a drink, but not to that level? Is there, for example, with my younger brother with his drug use, is that based on the fact that he was surrounded by much older brothers and mum and dad, all earning a living, and he had such a massive age gap that he struggled with the idea of not being able to buy himself certain things. So then you get into the rewarding behavior. Are we looking at, as per the show that Noah had, when Noah came on and talked about depression, the way that you've been born and brought up and been treated by your parents? And then you start to look at some of the people that you know maybe exhibit addictive behavior, and you go, hang on, I only know them in this way. Did I know them as a child? Did I know their upbringing? Did I know, for example, and we could see this on many documentaries, and I think the American ones, and to a lesser degree the British ones, if you are surrounded by people using drugs just to amuse themselves, just to get high, maybe not even in an addictive way, it's fucking obvious that most people in that situation, unless they get away, are way more likely to be addicts or way more likely to exhibit addictive behavior. And then you start to actually fucking get an understanding of what's going on, even as a positive. I've mentioned on shows, I think we talked about the show when I was told I'd saved someone's life 5 minutes before we started the show. That person hasn't used drugs now, I'm going to say, Steve, in 7 or 8 months. I got stopped the other day by someone that was literally a drug runner. I kind of knew what they were doing. And for some reason, they stopped and spoke to me and told me about how they're getting out of that lifestyle. I haven't seen them drug running, but then I haven't seen them at all since. So maybe they've moved to get away from it. So we as we get older, and again, especially as we do these shows and we've had people on, you start to appreciate and understand that there's more to it than meets the eye. It's not just not a headline in a newspaper or a headline in a documentary, a headline on the evening news. It's more than that. And when you especially got people talking about these things, you start to understand. So yeah, Noah, talk a little bit about that because
Yeah,
I
and
know you've got some experience.
I want to talk about that. Let me just say this, okay? People out there who lack empathy for people who are drug addicts or going through a hard time or someone who's homeless or something like that, 100% of the time, 100% of the time, they're hypocrites because they in their own family or they themselves
Oh yeah,
have addictions or depression or any of these things as well, but they just don't think it's a problem. And that's
it's
the
an easy thing to
hypocrisy.
do,
Yeah,
Steve. It's
it's
easy
a
to get through life
hypocritical.
thinking that way. Yeah,
But at
yeah.
the end of the day, our brains are very complex as human beings. We're all gonna go through addictions in life. Just because you don't think your addiction is right, like someone says, "Oh, fuck these people, fuck these addicts. I don't give a shit. They should just fucking hang them." I had a guy one time tell me that, and this guy, his gut was hanging out from his stomach like you
Yeah.
wouldn't believe. Like, motherfucker, you're addicted to sugar,
Addicted
you're
to
addicted to
shit. Yeah.
junk food, you're addicted to fast food. Look at your fucking
Yes.
gut,
Yes.
and you have the fucking lunacy to fucking say other people are, fuck other people, their addictions, when you yourself are an addict, and you're probably gonna get a heart attack before you're even 50 because of your fucking.
What about Steve, social acceptance of certain drugs vis-a-vis nicotine and alcohol,
Yeah, yeah,
and even prescription
pot or any of that
medication
stuff.
or
Yeah, yeah,
fast food,
yeah.
and you go, "Oh, I'm not addicted because I'm not laying in the street with a needle
Yeah.
hanging out my arm."
Even
Yes, you
caffeine.
fucking are.
90% of
Sure you are.
America drinks caffeine. That's an
Guilty.
addiction. You try
Guilty.
Yep.
not drinking caffeine, you won't be able to get through your day. That's an
Okay, yeah, with
Drinking
addiction.
it right
headaches,
now.
with
All these things are fucking hypocritical. Like, it's hypocrite. So you can't be a hypocrite in life, guys. That's one thing I don't like is hypocrisy. Don't be a fucking hypocrite because nobody is perfect. I've had addictions. No one's had addictions. Mobsters had addictions. We have family members.
yeah,
Everyone, it
yes,
affects everybody. So
yes.
you can't be a hypocrite. So Noah, touch on that.
If you're listening, sorry, just to interrupt, guys. If you're listening to this show, guys, you're looking to go to the gym if you're not already going to the gym. You're looking to use PEDs if you're not already using PEDs. So you're looking to improve your life. If you do have addictive stuff that we can talk about, like we're going to discuss on this show, then even if you come away from this show and mention it to someone else, you're making a positive thing, whether it's you in the gym using PEDs to enhance your training, eating better, looking better, feeling better, or sharing the information that we're doing today. So think of it in those terms, and hopefully you maybe recognize that some of these things are true about all of us, and that in itself would be a benefit for us doing this show for you guys today. Sorry, Noah. Carry on.
No, 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 you're fine. It all adds into it. Anything helps. I will say, reflecting on you two talking just now and mentioning childhood, I realized I was actually addicted to ADHD medication before I even knew it. And the funny thing is, uh, at my age now, it just kind of hit me when you guys said that. Like, I was diagnosed at 5 years old and was taking 50 milligrams of Ritalin, which was the original ADHD drug, like the most potent one you can get in the 90s. And I was on that all from 5 years old till I was 18. And I remember feeling like a zombie. I had no personality. I couldn't stay awake. It just numbed everything about me as a child and took my childlike innocence and just destroyed it. And I couldn't do anything because I'm a child. So I'm just being force fed these pills to behave because I had issues. I was labeled as a troublemaker and a problem child, and I couldn't control my personality. So um, I'll tie back into childhood trauma with that, but I just want to share a little bit of my story. But childhood trauma can increase the risk of drug addiction because early experiences shape how the brain develops, how emotions are regulated, and how a person learns to cope with stress. Trauma doesn't guarantee addiction, but it strongly raises vulnerability. Here's how it works, and this is a step by step with how can affect you from childhood. Um, Trauma changes the developing brain. Children's brains are still writing themselves. Trauma, abuse, neglect, violence, chaotic households ring a bell with my trauma. Can disrupt the development. It affects areas involved in stress response, impulse control, prefrontal cortex underdevelops, reward and pleasure systems, dopamine pathways become dysregulated. These brain changes can make someone feel constantly on edge, have trouble calming themselves, seek strong forms of relief or comfort, dependency on other people, relationships, etc. Drugs can temporarily soothe these feelings. Trauma affects the stress system, HPA axis. Trauma can leave the body in a chaotic state of fight or flight, even when there's no danger. This leads to anxiety, hypervigilance, emotional numbness, and sleep problems. Drugs like alcohol, opioids, or sedatives temporarily reduce these uncomfortable feelings, making them seem like a solution. Drugs becoming a coping mechanism. Children who grow up in unsafe or emotionally unstable environments often don't learn healthy coping skills. Instead, they might avoid emotion, numb feelings, distract themselves from pain. Drugs can provide escape, numbing, relief, a sense of control, a sense of belonging or connection, but this relief is a short term and can turn into dependence and addiction. Trauma affects self worth and identity. Kids who experience trauma often develop beliefs like, I'm not good enough, which I've put on my log a million times and have told you guys publicly. You can see it on Evo. that I'm not good enough. People can't be trusted. I'm alone. I'm broken. I felt all of these things. Drugs may temporarily suppress these painful thoughts, creating a cycle where substance use becomes intertwined with self esteem and emotional survival. Trauma increases risk taking and impulsiveness. Trauma can impair parts of the brain responsible for weighing consequences and delaying gratification. This
Yeah.
makes teens and adults more likely to experiment with drugs, use substances to feel something, act impulsively when distressed. Trauma alters relationships and attachment. Many people with childhood trauma struggle with trust, intimacy, setting boundaries, feeling safe with others. Drugs can often feel like a substitute for comfort, security, or connection. This makes substances emotionally sticky, increasing addiction risk. Trauma often co occurs with mental health issues, which is PTSD, anxiety. I already went over those kind of things, but you guys kind of get the drift. But in simple terms, trauma teaches the brain and body to live in survival mode. Drugs offer temporary relief from the chaos over time. That relief turns into dependence, and dependence can become addiction. What do you guys think? That's pretty much everything I wanted to touch on with that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I'll echo one of those right now, guys, because we've discussed my brother David as the alcohol-based death. Alcoholic acid ketoacidosis, I believe, which is essentially not being able to excrete the alcohol in your system, and essentially you poison yourself with alcohol and die. So yeah, so sounds very trite me saying it like that, because that's the only way I can say it. And essentially dealing with depression in David's case, constantly being anxious about certain particular things, which I was not, and without him understanding, especially obviously when he died, constantly having alcohol in the system, and arguably, guys, constantly being slightly drunk, if not properly drunk, all the fucking time, as a way of not dealing with some small physical discomfort, but obviously emotional discomfort vis-a-vis the depression that Noah's just touched upon. And because you're not dealing with it, you're not fixing it, you're not addressing it, you're not, as he could have done, more approaching doctors to get treatment and so on and so forth. And arguably, and slightly ironically, also being on antidepressant medication. And just as a way of discussing that, and one of the points I was quite angry at the time, as you can imagine, being emotional, etc., when your brother's passed away, having a conversation with my mother, which was about David dealing with depression. And my mum said, "Oh, I didn't know." I said, "For fuck's sake, mother, you had to go to the doctors to get his prescription for depression, and then go to the chemist to pick up his prescription for depression, for the medication." So, yeah, literally avoidance. So you've just got all these kind of things going on. One of the things, and this is more a benefit, if you like, and I think Noah's actually touched upon this as well, especially in the previous show, by discussing some of these things as we are today, and by making suggestions like using bodybuilding to help us deal with these situations, if only physical strength as well as emotional strength, literally understanding what's caused the addiction and what caused the depression helps somewhat. If you are, for want of a better phrase, in the dark, or you're avoiding discussing, or you're avoiding understanding, then the argument becomes, how the fuck do you fix yourself? Do you want to be depressed? Do you want to be addicted? Do you want to stay in what we might describe as negative behavior? And especially the way that Noah's used the actual literal definitions earlier on. So one of the great things, and I think all three of us could argue that we are in that side of things.
Yeah.
We have some understanding of ourselves. We have some understandings of what's led us to this situation, or family members to this situation. And because we have some insight, even if it's only personal insight and some experience, again, even if it's only personal, that is the starting point that's going to enable you, arguably, and we're not fucking medical professionals here, this is just from our personal experience and our personal thoughts. It enables you to take that first step and give you that sense of control. So whether, as I said, with Noah, you could argue about the depression, I could talk about addiction issues or behavior in my family, even as to a lesser degree, habits that Steve and I might have that might be described as addictive, even if there is, as I say, going to the gym or wherever else and not being able to fucking kind of see that we couldn't or don't have to if we don't want to, but we enjoy it too much and so on and so forth. But understanding those things enables us to get a better handle on it, a better understanding of it. And that's just for our personal experience and our personal benefit. And then hopefully, when we say these things to you guys and we talk about these things, hopefully in a way that enables you to shine a little bit of a light on what you're doing and enable you to shine a light into a different area that's more positive, more capable, more meaningful, if only by virtue of understanding what the driving factors are, what the driving issues are. Because once you've done that, you've literally, I think we've used a 12-step program as an example, you've literally taken your first step to turning part of your life, an aspect of your life, a negative part of your life, and a negative aspect of your life, and beginning to turn it around. And that makes you, the listener, very powerful.
Yeah. So let me bring in, I'm going to bring in Noah in a second, but let me just bring up some statistics. I'm a math nerd. So, and the troubling statistics for those of you out there who are both dealing with addiction or not dealing with addiction is that 80% of Americans grow up in what would be considered a dysfunctional household. 80%. That is crazy. And 40 to 50% of children witness divorce because that's our divorce rate in America is about 40 to 50%, depending on where you live. The younger you get married, the higher the chance of getting divorced. If you get married super young, your chance of getting divorced are 70, 80%. Of course, if you get married in your 60s or 70s, the chance of you getting divorced are very low. You're going to end up getting widowed before you even think about getting divorced. But we're talking about that's a huge amount of children that have dysfunction or that have witnessed divorce. 25% of children today don't have a father growing up. 60% of children witness or experience abuse, whether it be verbal or they experience divorce, abuse themselves. Even in a situation, I can remember as a kid one time came to school with a black eye. And it bothered me a lot because I was like, fuck, this poor kid, his father probably beat the shit out of him the day before over something or something. And I knew that. And I like talked to him and he was crying and I was like, fuck. I went to talk to like a teacher about it. I was like, look, I think this kid's getting beat. And then the kid was like, no, that wasn't what happened. And I was like, fuck yeah, that's what happened. So it's like, even if you don't personally witness that type of abuse, seeing others deal with that type of abuse is also traumatic as well. And so really we're all growing up fucked up, okay? Like even, like in Mobster's case, his brothers had a hard time, but he didn't have as much as a hard time. But that doesn't mean that they had a different experience than him. They could have had a different experience. I know someone, I dated a girl, her sister was young, walking down the street, and some dude literally fucking raped her down the street. And they couldn't find the guy. They don't know who the fucking guy is. So it not only traumatized that girl, but it traumatized the girl I was dating, having to grow up with that experience. She's like 8 years old. So shit happens, man. No matter how much you think you're raising your children perfectly, shit will happen either directly or indirectly. That's going to fucking traumatize them and cause issues growing up. And this is because we're humans. At the end of the day, we're fucking humans. And we are dysfunctional
let me quote
species.
something, Steve, that you said right at the beginning. The idea that 80% of households are dysfunctional actually means a dysfunctional household is the fucking norm. The idea that we're all living some perfect fucking heavenly, no one argues, no one rows, everybody sits on the naughty step, blah, 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 everything in life is perfect. In reality, 80% means more people live in a dysfunctional household than do not, which means a dysfunctional household is normal. And even with my brothers, as an example again, it's literally the difference between maybe me being the firstborn and me being quote unquote the leader, the older, blah, 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 and literally holding herself up against that statistic, the 80%, meaning it's just how I handle my shit differently. That's literally it. So again, the idea, because I've now, of course, had the experience that my life, quote unquote, is perfect is bollocks versus my perhaps in a greater scheme of things being able to handle my shit in a different way. And arguably, what have I got that they never had in the same fucking way? And that's literally me going to the gym since the age of 15. Probably that more than anything else. It's 1 year older, not using alcohol, but at the same time, I've had that controlling mechanism, the stress relief. And we're going to get into what the benefits are of bodybuilding and weightlifting versus
Yeah, yeah,
not.
yeah. And I
So
like that because
arguably, yeah, yeah,
you've used your trauma and you
yeah.
use the gym to compensate it.
Well,
I have
Noah did too.
yeah.
Noah actually
And then
said on the
Noah's yeah.
previous show,
So Noah
yes,
talked about that.
he actually
I
said,
have hobbies that I really enjoy. It could be just like
yes,
watching football
yes.
all afternoon. It could be any or cooking or fishing or any of these hobbies that I like to do. Really, I like to do that. It really relaxes me and it helps me through my coping stuff that I grew up with. So
It lets
Noah
you switch off. It lets you
touch on
switch off.
how yeah, your own
So
experiences, Noah, and how
let
the
me bring
gym.
Noah. Noah, I'll quote what Noah said, and then Noah can obviously tell the listeners more. Noah actually one bit, and I said this to Noah in the pre-show. You literally said that on occasion, and this was dealing with depression and specifically the paternal, i.e., his father, not being quite the fucking father that he should have been, and I use those words exactly. Um, he raged. He was in the gym and he would train for fucking hours. And arguably, Noah, that in becomes a positive use of a negative aspect. So talk a bit about that from your own experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna share a story quick before I do that. You guys talking about childhood stuff. I mean, I was a little older at this point. I mean, I think I was like in my early 20s, but it just kind of hit me hard. But one thing I didn't touch on with the depression part, which also led into how I raged in the gym with what you just mentioned, was the way my this one's hard. The way my grandma passed away. She had stage 3 ovarian cancer, and I didn't live in state at the time. I'm in Wisconsin. She was in Pennsylvania, where I'm originally from. Um, my grandfather kind of just let her die. When we got there, and we were cleaning out the house, she was the bed that she laid in was just full of blood because she couldn't get up to urinate and she couldn't get up to use the
Oh yeah,
bathroom at all. And for a few months when she was suffering through cancer with no treatment, no doctors, no nothing, she was just wetting her bed and defecating in her bed and bleeding
yeah,
in her bed and suffering in a tremendous amount of pain. I'm trying not to get emotional, but so long story short, by the time we found out, um, we were on a 1,500-mile road trip, speeding the whole way there, just me and my mom. I don't think I've ever felt somebody grip my hand as hard as she did. She squeezed it so hard that I thought
mm,
she was going to break my hand, and trying to keep my mom emotionally strong and not showing any emotion myself or any weakness was probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. Um, I still haven't fully grieved it, and I'm in my late 30s now, and we made it on time to see my grandma in hospice, and she had less than 24 hours. They went to the hospital, nothing they could do, sent her right to hospice. I remember staying awake all night and just watching a machine breathe for her and watching her chest fill up and then collapse.
yeah,
And she was just a skeleton of her former self. And I remember the moment she passed away and kissing her forehead for the last time. She was ice cold within minutes. It that fucked me up for a long time, and it still kind of does. But um, you were talking about rage in the gym, and I often think of that whole situation and use that to my
yeah,
leverage. So my point being, no matter how fucked up a situation is, you guys can absolutely use the gym to let it
yes,
out, and to,
yes.
instead of harboring the negativity and taking it out on somebody else, you can absolutely focus on a positive goal and better your mind and better your body. And that will, I just wanted to share that so you guys know, because I haven't told anybody that story,
I
but
could tell you an example, and I try to keep this brief, guys. Not that that's my freaking habit, but anyway. So we go a few days, literally, I think 48 hours, 72 hours after my brother's passed away, and my brother had been doing compulsive obsessive stuff. It's literally like some fucking TV drama, guys. So we go into the room that he's supposed to have been sleeping in. There's a clean new mattress. He was sleeping on the sofa in the front room and had been doing for months, which I didn't know about. There's a clean new mattress on my old bed frame from when I was a teenager. And we go in there to try to tidy up after he's passed away. My niece had actually gone around and cleaned shit off the fucking front room floor. To put graphically, lift up the clean mattress, and there was a hole in the base of the bed, and it is full of bags of piss and shit. And I threw out 17 bags, and I think we between us 24, 25 bags. We threw out the sofa went over the balcony because it was covered in excrement and piss and stuff like that from when the person passes away. And talk about anger. I shouted at just about everybody, and I think I made everybody, including myself, cry by really kicking off in anger that, why the fuck wasn't I told? How the fuck is this possible for it to happen? Why is it built up to this literally 17 bags of fucking piss and shit and a sofa and all the rest of the stuff I've just discussed? My daughter brought the grandkids down after asking me whether she should. And I said no. And then they'd come. So she got shouted at. The only people that didn't get shouted at was the grandkids. And I was angry as fuck and emotional at some point. And I'm trying to be not emotional about it as well. We're sitting in the car about to go home and banging their heads on the fucking dashboard, and my girlfriend banging her head on the fucking steering wheel because it's just such a shitty, horrible situation. And as emotional as I'm feeling now, I could still fucking go to the gym and still work out and still pound the fuck out of shit and not have that stuff going on in my mind and not be overwhelmed by it or whatever else. Even as I'm saying it to you now, thinking about it in those terms, I'm sort of gaining control of myself because of, being able to do that shit. You can't think about, and I've used this euphemism with people at the gym before. I says, I don't care what fucking day you're having. If you're squatting, as I sometimes do, 600, 700, 800 fucking pounds or more, you can't think about anything else except the one thing you're actually
and you
fucking
need
doing.
that. You need to have a hobby.
Yes.
Like when I go
Yes.
fishing, I talk
Any
about
kind of
fishing a lot.
distraction, anything.
I talk a lot
Painting,
fishing. When I'm
drawing.
fishing, it's fight or flight. I take that shit serious. I go for like 3 or 4
Yes.
hours and literally don't even have my phone. And I just fucking fish and I don't get my mind anything. I'll tell you a quick story about Pogo the Clown, which is William Lacey. I'm sure you know about him, Noah, because
Of course.
yeah,
Midwest. What
yeah,
a
exactly.
beauty.
And he's one of the notorious serial killers. His
Oh,
dad,
yes. I know
when
who
he
that
was
is.
a
Yeah.
child, used to beat the crap out of him literally every day. Beat the shit out of him, beat the shit out of him, over every little thing. So he grew up with so much fucking anger that as an adult, he would dress up as a clown and go and do children's birthdays and all kinds of shit. And he would kidnap these kids and do horrible things to these children. The same way his dad used to be horrible with him, he would be even worse to these kids. And he ended up burying, like, I don't know, 30 or 40 kids under
Yeah.
his
17,
fucking
18,
house.
19,
And
something
you
like
could
that. Yeah.
smell the kids,
Yeah.
the
The
corpses.
dirt. Yeah.
So my point is you can be the extreme situation, which is Pogo the Clown, and
Yeah.
spend the rest of your life being a serial because all these serial killers grew up in fucked up situations like that.
Yeah.
Whether they had a mom that used to sexually abuse them, or a dad that used to sexually abuse them, or a dad used to beat the shit out of them, or something horrible happened to them as kids. And there's early signs that they're going to end up being serial killers, by the way. It's not something that magically, when they become an adult, they become serial killer. But my point is, you can become Pogo the Clown, which is an extreme situation, and be a serial killer. And I think that, I don't know, I think he may have killed like over 100 people. They think it's like 30 to 40 people. Anyway, my point is, or you could do the other end of the spectrum, is you could be, as an adult, a good person, treat others good, treat your family good, and use that anger in this
Yes.
constructive way. We see a lot of boxers, MMA fighters, football players. They literally get paid to hit people and do that in the fucking sport, not outside the sport. Now, occasionally, a lot of them end up, or some of them, a percentage of them, end up doing bad things outside the sport. They'll get in a traffic accident and they'll beat the shit
John
out of the other
Jones. Yeah.
person, something like that. So you'll hear these anger, but they're not. But they have to project their anger a certain way, and a lot of them are very nice outside of the football field, and some of them are not so very nice. So we see that a lot, and a lot of these football players have talked about that as well. So my point is, you could be, as an adult, just because you got the shit beat out of you as a kid doesn't mean as an adult you have to go and beat the shit out of other kids or your own kids. You can reverse that by using the gym to your fucking advantage.
Yes.
Go to the gym, whether
Yes.
it be boxing gym and hitting, the boxing thing, whether it be going to the gym and throwing around some heavy ass weights, whether it be, using this Pharmaqo steroids to give
Yep.
yourself that big growth and muscle, and you could be a big fucking powerful person. And when you see people getting bullied and you see people having bad shit happen to them, I watched a story I was watching a YouTube video. It came up where there was a guy hitting his wife out on some river or something, and like three or four big motherfuckers went up to that guy and got him off and started beating the shit out of the bad guy until the police came and the police fucking arrested the motherfucker who was beating his wife. And the wife was crying. She's like, "Thank you for saving me." That's what you want to do. You want to be a fucking hero. You want to be a good fucking person as an adult, not a fucking piece of shit that beats his wife as an adult. So think about that. Turn that negative situation into a good
Yes.
thing as an adult and be a good fucking person as an adult. And don't let these negative addictions take your life. Use the fucking good addictions like working
Yes.
out to your fucking
Yes.
advantage.
Let me preface that then, Steve, because one of the topics we want to talk about, and again, this can apply to lots of things, but we're specifically applying it today for the idea of bodybuilding, literally going into the gym to stay in shape or build your muscle or to trim your waist or whatever version of bodybuilding you want to. Mine's more strength training, but it doesn't matter. So the benefits of structure. Structure in and of its way is kind of distracting. If I'm going to spend, for example, let's imagine I was a drug addict, recreational drugs, getting high and just doing stupid shit all the time and not helping myself. So negative behavior and addictive behavior. And I want to replace it with positive behavior and specifically structure. If I literally set aside certain times of the day to do positive things, like might be, for example, reading for an hour, educating myself, trying to become a math whiz like Steve, uh, learning a new job skill, and I set aside certain parts of the day, 2 hours for this, an hour for that. I won't do this until this time, and so on and so forth. I'm giving myself a structure. One of the things that I've used, or I've used this term, if nothing else, when I talk about the older guys at the gym training myself, most 99.9% of my training is in the morning, typically 9:30-ish, sometimes a little bit earlier, for 1 to 2 hours. And I say that my hardest part of my fucking day is done when I finish the gym. It doesn't matter if I've got a show upcoming to record with Steve, or I've got bills to pay, or I've got to sort stuff out, or I've got to make a couple of phone calls, go to the opticians, pay some money for some new glass, whatever the fuck life throws at me. The hardest part of my day is done. And I chose to fucking be there and do this thing. Monday leg training, the hardest day of the fucking week. And I'm doing it the first fucking day of the working week. Monday's supposed to be a shitty day for me. It's the best day. So I've literally started my structure, if you like, it started with the most difficult thing I can possibly do physically to myself. And I've done it on the first fucking working day of the week. The rest of the day's going to be pissed. The rest of the week's going to be easy. So structure, and specifically in this case, bodybuilding, is great. Whether that's meal prepping, whether that's getting my meals in on time, whether that's training. Talk about that, guys. That structure that training gives you,
Yeah, go
and
ahead,
that sort
Mom.
of
Go ahead, Noah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, first off, I want to touch on how Mobster just violated the Geneva Convention by not doing International Chest Day on Monday instead of legs. So let's get that
That's
out of the way.
right.
Somebody with his age and experience should absolutely know Monday is bench day.
No, no,
But
bench time Friday is what you're talking about.
this guy. But yeah, so I often tell people or ask people three things, right? Who, what, and why. Who are you doing it for? Why are you doing it? And what is going to keep you motivated and driven to move forward? Um, these things all correlate together in the gym, because when you go back to the story that Mobster shared and that I shared, we could both be addicts and strung out right now with what
Please,
we
mate.
went
Yeah,
through, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But why aren't we? Because we mentally chose to go a different
Yes,
path. We
yes.
substituted that trauma and that pain, even if we buried
Mm.
it at the time, in something positive, being the gym. And my whole thing is, wouldn't it be a shame for everybody out there listening if you come this far and quit? You've already come this far. You've come too far to come too far. Keep putting all of that energy, no matter how bad or how dark or how desolate it feels. Keep moving forward. Find a way. There's guys like Mobster Steve and I who are always open and willing to help any way we can. Now, as
Yeah,
he stated, we aren't health professionals, but we know our way around a gym. We
Yep.
like to motivate people. Family's big on Evo. Um, I just wanted to put that out there to let you guys know that you
Talk
have a
about
home.
Noah, that feeling you get. Like I can tell you this right now. The first time I ran a half marathon and I crossed that finish line, it was the best high I've ever
Mm.
Oh,
experienced
I
in
can
my life.
imagine.
Those endorphins were insane. And what's funny is I was finishing the marathon, it was like the last 2 or 3 miles, and I started pacing with this chick that was running with me. And we were talking, the whole rest of the way, hey, where are you from? What age group are you competing in? All this shit. We are just talking. And that last 2 or 3 miles, you couldn't feel a god. You couldn't feel anything because we were just talking to each other. We're kind of entertaining each other. And then we finished. And as soon as I crossed that finish line, I was like, oh, like I was just like I couldn't even like stand up anymore. But you weren't noticing it while you're running. So this shows you what your body is capable of. There's this other
Yes.
girl too running with me. Her ankle got twisted. She was like on one leg finishing that fucking half marathon. So at the end of the day, us as humans, we're capable of doing whatever we want in life. We can finish it. I can
Yes.
tell you guys though, that exercising is so fucking important. And those same feelings you get when you snort that cocaine or that heroin, or you smoke that pot, or you drink that alcohol, or if you're a
Mm.
caffeine addict and you drink coffee every morning, that same fucking feeling times 10 is when you have that exercise endorphins rushing through your body,
Hey,
rushing through
Steve.
Yeah,
your brain.
it's not
Talk-
magical, is it, guys? You didn't get a finger coming down from the sky and touching you on the shoulder to give you the
Yeah,
power to bench press that weight or squat that way
yeah,
or curl that way or get into the pain.
yeah.
You did
And you
that.
feel that
You.
way when you hit a PR in the gym, squatting or benching,
Yeah.
or when you do anything. So any exercise, guys, doesn't have to be weight training. You don't even have to even set foot in a gym. You can go do fucking pull-ups on a tree. You can go
Yeah.
do push-ups. You can use a chair to do squats. It is all kinds of
Yes.
things. You don't have to be able to even afford a membership. Just if you're listening to this and you're an addict, turn that negative addiction. Remember the Pogo the Clown example. Be a good human. Be a good human to yourself, your family, and others. We really appreciate that. Your family will appreciate that. We're doing this podcast near the holidays. What a holiday gift you can give to your children and your parents and your aunts, uncles, and nieces and nephews by quitting that negative addiction and turning it into a positive addiction and using
What
exercise.
about two recent shows that we did, guys? And a Big D just last week, where not only has he lost over 200 pounds, not only is he now still alive to see his grandchild grow up, which is one of the motivating factors, but with that, and again, we do these things for ourselves and we do these things as a way of coping. That might be one part of it. We obviously then get something from it in terms of strength and muscle and so on. But without us realizing, and even perhaps obviously as we do this show, if people can see you handling your shit, your depression, your addiction, your whatever, you are, without you even realizing, setting an example, whether it's for the person in the coffee shop that you go to, the one in the supermarket that's bagging your groceries up. Hey, you work out? Where'd you train? I should work out too. What do you think I should? Small things. The guy that fucking washes your car, whoever, whatever, workers, colleagues, people that go the other. I've literally been asked to do. I think when I was working for the car park company, NCP, I ended up doing a gym opening because we worked out a contract to do a deal with them. And I went there on my evening, one of my days off, and did a little strongman act as part of their opening for the evening. I've just been asked to do shit like that because I could do, because my manager knew
Yeah.
I could do it. But to see the gym, it's just stupid stuff. So you don't realize that you're actually, not only you open yourself, you start to put that positive energy back out into the world by example, by showing you don't
Yeah.
have to eat shit,
And
by
your kids will
training,
grow
by
up
being
seeing that
disciplined.
example, and then the cycle will have a better chance of. So Noah, touch on that, and then we'll get into some steroids that are safe for those of you
Yes.
out there who've had past addiction issues, because we really need to talk about that. But Noah, touch on that subject.
Well, the beautiful thing, over time, your brain will actually rewrite itself to get pleasure from healthy activities instead of substances. And it provides a healthy coping mechanism, which is awesome for stress, trauma, boredom, emotional pain. The gym can replace with a positive outlet. But the most important part for somebody who struggles with addiction, it creates a routine and structure, which is vitally important for success. because addiction thrives in chaos, emptiness, and lack of schedule. So
Yes.
if you guys can get yourself, even on a small routine, I don't care if it's once a week you hit the gym or you go for a 2 mile walk, anything positive, or you eat less calories than you did the day before, just putting together little pieces of puzzle over time will eventually create the entire picture and a complete puzzle. So the thing
Yes.
is, it will give you motivation for a time to wake up, a place to be, a goal to pursue. Like these are all things that you can do along with building self-esteem, that your body will become capable, your mind will become stronger, your overall health will improve, you're achieving goals you set. So those dopamine, that serotonin, the mood balancing, the endorphins, all of those bells are going to start to ring over time if you just stick with it, and it's going to reduce your stress, your anxiety, your depression, along with a healthy diet and eating habits. The sky's the limit. And also, with what we're doing here, the biggest part of this, it creates a sense of community, which is awesome because with Evo, even though we're not in person, you still have support 100%, 100% of a social connection. You absolutely belong, everyone, anyone, and everything. You belong in Evo, and we're all here to help. And it also will fill the time that you would otherwise use to do the drugs or have the addiction. And the best part is your heart health will improve, your lung capacity, your muscle mass, your energy levels, your immune function, your sleep. There's a myriad of positive things that will start to correlate and transform you into the person that you've always wanted to be. Just because you're an addict doesn't mean you're a bad person. We all fall down in life. It
Mm-hmm.
depends on picking yourself up, lacing up your boots, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, and just finding a way to get it done. And if you're
Yeah.
ever struggling, we are here to boost you up.
Yeah.
So I just wanted everyone to know that. So
Yeah.
those are some things I want to touch on for
And
you
we
guys.
got several guys right now who are former addicts or maybe recently who are doing logs and who are succeeding and who are continuing to kick ass. So let's talk about some pharmacosteroids that you can use when you have past addiction issues. So let me give one that you should not be using, and that is trenbolone. And at the end of
No.
the day, trenbolone is a bad idea for past addicts. It's so inflammatory in the body, which makes it very inflammatory to the brain. It will affect dopamine levels. So if you have prior addictions, trenbolone is a bad idea. It will literally, as Noah said in the last segment about rewiring the brain, tren
Yeah.
will rewire your brain. Like I was fucking, on tren, I wanted like it was crazy. Like I was crazy on tren myself. So tren is not a good idea if you have past addictions. Not a good idea. Also, I would not mess around
I'd
with
say
some.
trend on the trend one,
Yeah,
Steve. I've cited in previous shows some time ago that trend was the only one in a study with older users for medical reasons that exhibited dementia-like
yeah.
symptoms using low dose trend to treat those medical
Yep. It's because it's so
situations. Yeah,
inflammatory. That's really the crux of it. Also, Superdol and Halo also not a good idea. So I would
yeah.
avoid these super toxic steroids. So Mobster and Noah, let me start with you, Noah. What are some good pharmacocycles and steroids that are much more safe for those who have suffered from addictions in the past?
I've I've mentioned this in the past, but it's because it's such a winner and it's so simple to run that I will always recommend either just testosterone on its own, 3 to 500 milligrams, depending on where your level is and your experiences. But man, testosterone and Masteron from Pharmaqo are gold. Like you can't go wrong with that. Or even Primo, just I know that I'm kind of beating a dead horse with this, but I like simplicity and for feel good cycles, man, like testosterone, Primo, and Proviron, or even just test and Proviron. Like Proviron is a workhorse that does so
Yeah.
many things in the background. I know when I took it personally, my mood was better. I was overall happier. I just felt this sense of energy. Like it's hard to even explain, but it's just a feel good compound. I mean, it's weird that it's categorized in the steroid family, but kind of much different than that. But for me,
Yeah.
just test Primo and Proviron. You really can't go
Okay.
wrong. Like DHTs, for some reason, they boost my
Okay.
mood quite a bit.
So you think the
I,
DHTs don't
yeah.
affect? I was gonna say the DHTs don't affect that issues like with if someone's addicted out there, so they should go with so maybe name some more DHTs. You said Primo, Masterin, Proviron. What other DHTs? Anavar.
Yeah,
What
Anavar.
about what about Winstrol? Winstrol's a little harsh, or is that
Uh,
okay?
well, Winstrol is definitely harsher on the organs, and it can definitely dry your joints out. So if you're not experienced, I would just be careful with Winstrol overall. I ran it for the first time. I didn't experience dry joints, but that's because I'm at that level now to where I can structure a cycle properly. I know what's too much,
Yes.
what's too little, and I ran a low dose, just 20 milligrams. I know some guys do 50,
Yep.
a day, but 20 milligrams for me was a sweet spot. I mean, Anavar about 40, 50
Yeah.
milligrams for me was a sweet
So,
spot.
so
And
Noah, touch on before let Mobster give a couple as well, but touch on the dosing thing, keeping the doses. How important is that for former addicts, and why should they not like go jack their dose up to 2, 3, 4 grams?
so that's kind of the thing that I struggle with personally, because I know people who have been addicted in the past could possibly take this to the extreme and go off the rails with it. It's important to surround yourself with knowledgeable people who've been in the game for a very long time, such as you and Mobster and a
Come
lot of other
on.
guys in the forum. Just ask a lot of
Come
questions
on.
and don't be afraid to get educated
What the fuck?
from the guys who have been around for a long time. Because I know if it wasn't for like you, Mobster, my coach, I would kind of be in the dark here, and I probably would have wanted to jack the dose because early on, with my coach, he would set a limit, and I'd be like, man, but I can get stronger if I do this, or we should take this up by 200 milligrams. And he would just shut me down and educate me on why it was a bad idea. So to me, less is more overall because my results speak for themselves. I personally don't go very high in a lot of things, and I've had fantastic results on just minimal gear usage. So for me, I would say keep it minimal until you're
And
experienced,
that's a
and then
good
once
thing
you
about Pharmaqo too. Touching about that, Pharmaqo because their gear is so well dosed that you don't have to go and jack it up because even a little bit go a long way. So touch upon Pharmaqo, your experience.
Yeah, so I have experience with their Masteron, and I have experience with their Anavar, and I could tell you right now that stuff is 100% properly dosed, because even taking lower milligrams than what most people would typically take, the pump was insane on that Anavar, to the point to where I was doing forearms and I had to stop after like one set of 10 reps because the pump was so brutal. I couldn't keep going. Same with back, like just the pump was just so nasty. It was the coolest pump I think I'd ever had was on that Pharmaqo Anavar. So for me, like I even tried 20 milligrams and I still had a nasty pump on 20 milligrams. So that Pharmaqo gear, it's buttery smooth to inject. It's properly dosed. I know from my own experience in the gym. I know from my blood work. Pharmaqo is just very, very high quality stuff. If you've never tried Pharmaqo, I definitely would recommend giving it a shot because their gear is super easy to use. It's nicely dosed. It's got great labeling on it. It's very, very clean. My experience with Pharmaqo has been fantastic. I've got nothing but good things to say about Pharmaqo. They have some amazing products.
And tell us about the future, Noah, when it comes to, what are some future steroids that you haven't maybe tried yet from Pharmaqo that you kind of like, maybe I'll try that in the future.
Ooh, um, I really want to try one of their cut stacks, although like you said with the trend, I'm kind of nervous about that. But their cut stack with mass trend and testosterone is something that I think
So
would be
maybe,
phenomenal. But
yeah, maybe Tren Ace is something. This way, if you have
yeah,
an issue, you can automatically just come off of it. Talk
that
about
is
that.
that yeah, that is true. You know what? I will say the next thing that I will be doing that I'm very interested in that I want to try for a next cycle. I'm gonna try test prop. So I'm really kind of curious to see what the pip is going to be on that Pharmacol product, if there is any, um, and what it feels like. Because really, my experience is only with Inithate and Cypionate. So I'm really kind of curious to see if I'll notice like a boost in energy. how fast acting it will hit my system, if I notice more strength or less strength. So I'm really kind of interested in trying their test prop, and I think I'm going to in the future try their Retta as well. So I know I use their BPC religiously, and their BPC is awesome. I actually have some right now that I've been utilizing every day between 250 and
So you
500
had so let's touch on that really quick. You had the shoulder surgery, correct?
Yep.
And then how long after that did you start your BPC?
So that was a few years ago now,
Oh, okay.
but
But do
the
you
thing
recommend
is,
someone who has shoulder surgery take the BBC right away, or should they wait a few weeks?
um, you have to be careful where you inject it because obviously you don't want to hit anything that was just
Yeah.
surgically repaired. But I will say, even for me, putting it into my shoulder, like in the front delt area, it has helped with scar tissue. Like I have noticed my mobility is better and I don't fatigue as fast when I use BPC in my shoulder. So even though that injury is years old, it still has had a lot of beneficial uses for me in the gym, especially with like bench press, dips. I noticed that my shoulder soreness isn't as quick and I don't fatigue as fast as I used to when I don't use it. So it definitely does still have its benefits, even with an older injury. You can still get relief from it.
All right, so great tips from Noah. Again, check him out on the forum, Noah Wixx. You can check out his logs. Just do a search on the forum, top right for a member. Put in Noah Wixx, and you'll see him pop up. So Noah, we appreciate you coming on. Great information. Reach out to Noah, guys, if you're out there and you're going through depression or addictions. Check out his log or drop him a
Yeah.
PM. And look, drop any of us a PM. We're here to help you guys. Maybe come on the forum as well and do a log yourselves to keep yourselves motivated and inspirational. Any final words, Noah, to those out there who are dealing with addictions?
Yeah, my door is always open. Anything I can do, even if it's just, just a chat or just to just say hi, or if you have questions on like my workout or routine or diet, anything to take your mind off of what you're struggling with, if you need someone to talk with, my door is definitely always open. And I just wanted to say thank you again to Steve and Mobster for graciously letting me come back on again and talk to everybody and try and help people with addiction. So um,
Yeah.
just thank you guys for your time, and I'll let you do what you got to do.
Thank you.
All right, so Mobster, why don't you get into Pharmaqo a little bit, why you like them?
Yeah, look, we talk about what you should look for with a source. And again, I'm on a Pharmaqo products page right now as I do the show, guys. And so I want to have everything all in one place if I possibly can, Steve, whether that's SARMs, whether that's anabolic steroids, whether that's fat burning products, or to use a phrase that Steve does, dick drugs, all the ancillaries. And literally the page that I'm looking at, Stephen, is multiple pages. I'm just looking at one page here, has literally everything you could possibly need all in one place. What else would you look for? You want what we call clean, safe, means sterile, properly dosed products. You want a company that's got a great reputation. You want a company that literally, for example, Steve, and I'm looking at what am I looking at? They've got a product called the Anadrol 50 here, and they've got tags on the product package that you can then scan with your phone, which will then take you to a page on the Pharmaqo website that allows you to read about proper dosing, effective dosing, will show you the latest lab results and so on and so forth. So they are trying to make sure that their products are properly wrapped, properly described, properly printed, just to enable you to then be able to access the very information that you're going to need to know about the quality of that product, to know whether the batch has been tested, for the use by date, and then even for, as I say, products on the information on dosaging, how to use it, how to get the best from it, and so on and so forth. And then I talk about things like the visual impact of the product. And I don't just mean in the way that I've just described, but the literal design that makes you realize this is a proper company, not a Mickey Mouse company, not a company that's sort of been put together in the last 5 fucking minutes and is going to be gone tomorrow. So you want all of these kind of things. You want safe, sterile, solid products that are properly dosed and effective. And again, I've used this on other shows as an example. When I say come onto the forums, come on specifically onto the Evolutionary forum, or any of our family of forums. and put the word Pharmaqo into the search function on any of those pages and see what comes up. It's not just Stevesmi and I talking with Noah about addiction issues and maybe using Pharmaqo in the gym. You will see hundreds of members, thousands of members in some cases, that have used Pharmaqo products. Their reputation across not just our family of forums, but multiple families of forums will prove that this is an industry standard, industry-wide appreciated product by hundreds of thousands of bodybuilders. And especially as we're talking about today, Steve, when we're replacing negative addictive behavior with positive bodybuilding addictive behavior, if you want to use those terms, you want something that's going to give you the response. Imagine seeing yourself getting more muscular with Pharmaqo, or leaner with Pharmaqo, or stronger with Pharmaqo. How much more positive will the experience be? How much more powerful will that experience be? And how much more persuasive will it be? And when I say persuasive, Steve, I'm talking about literally that idea of swapping a negative thing with a positive thing, because you're now reinforcing your positive behavior and you're supported in that way with the positive behavior in the gym, at the dining table, with your knife and fork, with your meal prep, with everything else that you do, with a company that will show you great results. If you put in the fucking work, if you put in the gym time, if you throw out that negative addictive behavior and replace it with bodybuilding, then Pharmaqo is absolutely going to help you achieve that. You got to do the work, guys. You still got to train. What do you think about today's show? Emotional, not emotional, it doesn't matter, guys. It's our story. And absolutely, I think all three of us have absolutely been able to control some negative aspects of our life by going to the gym. And if we can share that experience with you guys today, and we can show you that there's a different way of doing things, different behaviors, going to the gym. I'm tempted to do an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, guys, and say, get to the gym. Because for some people, it can absolutely fucking turn things around for you, make you tired, make you want to go home and sleep, Steve. Get your frustration out, whatever, rather than doing negative shit and addictive stuff.
Yeah, don't be
whatever.
burying people under your house. You know?
Yeah, I need a sort of a pneumatic drill, Steve, with the concrete floors
Oh.
and shit. So yeah,
Well, you
none
got
of that.
cats. I'm sure you got plenty of cats buried under your
I'm
house.
just
All those
going to
cats
turn
that
around
you
and say,
have.
for the benefit of the listeners, I'm not. Steve is, but I'm not dressed as a clown as we do this show. So listen, guys, look, it can sound like a negative thing, but we're trying to put a positive message out there. Let us know, are we helping? Come onto the forums, like Noah said earlier on, like Steve said already. Let us know your thoughts. Come onto the forums. The community now is stronger than it's ever fucking been. And people are absolutely sharing their stories and turning their lives around. And again, if we can help 1, 2, 3 listeners that listen to the show do that, that would be fucking amazing. So as always, remember, we're not doctors and the opinions are ours. It's our view based on our experience and views on the topic. Our podcast are for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.